So to Jimmy's question, like in my facility, PTAs earn just about the same amount as the PT. It really has gotten hard. The numbers that I've seen publicly posted is the PTA is generating or earning about 80% of what the PT is earning. I know that in home health, PTAs are making a ton of money.
I'm Jimmy McKay, and I'm thrilled to have you here with us as we dive into some of the most pressing issues in our profession. Will be joining me today, my esteemed co-host, Tony Maritato and Dave Kittle. We'll bring them in just a second, but I wanted to set you up for what we're talking about today. Today, we're looking at two critical topics: the ongoing staffing shortages in physical therapy, and on the other side, the long wait times for patients trying to access our services. These challenges not only affect us as practitioners, but also impact the quality of the care our patients receive. Let's get into the root causes of these problems. And then, of course, we're going to give some solutions and suggestions and see if we can innovate some ideas. And of course, and then as promised, here they are. Tony Maritato in the middle and Dave Kittle. Good morning, gentlemen. How are you guys?
Good morning. Amazing. I'm so happy to be back. We were just talking about the summer festivities. I feel like my summer's already just about winding down. What about you, Dave?
Don't say that.
All is well here. Family visiting, leaving today. We still have a lot more this summer, as well as the men's weekend baseball league that I'm in. So other than that, I mean, same old, same old.
Wow. Hey, you know what? Talking about baseball real quick. Did you watch any of the draft last night?
I would love to talk about it briefly. I don't know if you want to do it now.
Yeah.
Or...
Go ahead.
Okay.
Let's start with that.
Okay. I love baseball. The MLB is failing. The top 6 picks of the draft were physically not at the draft. They were in their living rooms. The top 6, they knew they were going to get picked. They knew they were going to get picked in the top 10 or 15 or somewhere. For the NFL or any other major sport, NBA, whatever, it's in Times Square in New York City. Like, it's an event. You bring your whole family. All these guys know they're going to get drafted somewhere. And the fact that the first 6 picks were physically, or 6 or 7, were physically not at the place in San Antonio, Texas, or whatever. Also, I don't know, because it was in like a like one of those like rodeo, like stocks, whatever they call it. Like, yeah, maybe that's it, because maybe they perceived like it was going to smell, or it was not a great venue, or I don't know. But Major League Baseball is absolutely failing at creating the aura around the draft, which probably will result in less views and all that. I think we can learn something from it. Maybe it's a talking point. As a baseball fan, I think the MLB is just failing at so many things. We can get into it.
Yeah. I mean, as a lifelong baseball fan, I've watched I think it's my former favorite sport sort of have their throne, their position atop of America's sport, just slowly erode. For a while there, and I don't know the intricacies of it, I think I never noticed, but there was a deal where MLB wouldn't let anybody share clips of plays online. Like early social media, they were like, no, because then who would watch the game? And I was like, a lot of people would watch the game if they're watching guys make great plays. They'd say, look what I'm missing. It's the hors d'oeuvres and come by the steak. That's amazing to me. We've seen other sports, notably hockey, which was always like 4th in terms of attention in the 4 major sports. They might still be there, but they're gaining. They did where they did their draft?
No.
Where everything should be at the draft should be at the Sphere in Vegas. And that thing was a show. Like, they blew that thing up. So unless there was a compelling reason, my only question would be, are those 6 top players on the road? Like, are they with their teams right now? Are they playing?
No, they were literally at home in their living rooms with their families, and they're not playing for any other team because they're about to get drafted. They're done college ball. Maybe they're playing summer ball, but they're probably not playing summer ball because they don't want to get hurt before the draft. So they're probably just training.
Not cool. I mean, in my opinion, hype this up, man. 15-year-old kids want to see 19-year-old kids. You know what I mean? Getting drafted, or 22-year-old kids. And if you're a fan, you want to see, where's the franchise? Where's the franchise going? And you don't want to see it in mom's living room. Football, I get, because there's on the third day, right? If you knew you weren't going to go in the first 2 rounds, you might be sitting on the couch. I don't know.
I will say though, I'm not a huge sports nut. My wife is more of a sports nut than I am by a mile. MLB is the only professional sports that we still go to that I feel like is still within reach. It's like affordable. We pack up the family. We go 2-3 games a year. We have an amazing time. I love going to the Reds games. I love going to the Dayton Dragons games. I haven't been to a Savannah Bananas game, but that's the next one on the list. So I will say that what it's got going for it is they play a ton of games. It's an affordable event. We can get there. Like, we can interact with the players. I also wanted to say, plug for Middletown, where my physical therapy practice is. So the 27th pick was Dante Norai. Just a little background. So Fred Norai, local celebrity. His grandson, Dante Norai, got picked last night, 27th, went, I don't remember where he went, but then Norai also helped with Kyle Schwarber. He's a local kid. So, like, we've got all these deep baseball roots, and one of the things that I think is always interesting, like, my kids love baseball, my twins in particular. So, like, they have access to Fred Norai, who has access to Dante Norai and Schwarber and all of these guys. It kind of goes back to, and I feel like this will come up at some point, the connections, the connections you have, either the connections you have through family, the connections you have through location. Those connections are so powerful. And we're talking about Middletown. It's a steel town. It's not, New York City. It's not Manhattan. But I think the connections you make growing up are just so powerful. We don't even realize it as we become adults and kind of move into the professions. Yeah.
Banana Ball should be a future episode for us, just watching what they did. I mean, it's brilliant. It's really brilliant.
Dude, we covered it. We'll do it again. We covered it when you were just Tony and I.
Yeah.
Also, real quick. So the MLB, I want to give them one area of credit. They now, in the past year or two, they are the only pro sport that interviews and speaks to their players through an earpiece during play with a player on the field. So they'll pick Aaron Judge. They'll, just one inning while they're on the field. Mookie Betts, Bryce Harper. So they have tried to highlight some of their top players. And the player is like, all right, hold on. Like, all right, I got to field this ground ball. So the ball's hit to them and he throws it over to first for the out. And he's speaking to the announcers who are doing like the ESPN or whatever, game commenting. So that's really cool because you're speaking to someone and they're like answering questions. Sometimes it's a fan question. Sometimes it's a joke question from like one of their teammates. And so they get a little bit of a laugh. It's a little bit of like locker room banter. And so they're talking about the season, they're answering questions, whatever, but it's during live play. That's one thing that the other three major sports do not do. So it's like, who's steering the ship here? That's great. I want to give them credit. I wanted to mention it now, but the other thing is they're failing.
As a lifelong baseball fan, it's the only sport you could do that and not get someone murdered.
Yeah.
Do that as a left wing and you'll get killed. Do that as a linebacker and you'll get run over. Do it as a point guard, you get run into a screen. So baseball is more of a chess game, right? A lot of waiting around and then a flurry of action. I do want to note this. This wasn't in the script. We go live to a bunch of our social media channels twice a week with this, and I just noticed we're not live on Twitter. I get an alert here on the dashboard, and it says I now need to pay for a premium account in order to stream. This is brand new. I mean, we just did this a couple days ago. This was not an issue. Now this I want to highlight. You rent space on these platforms. Understand why your website and your email list are terribly important, because at the drop of a hat, Twitter can say, remember that thing you used to do to get a bunch of attention? Well, that's okay. We understand how valuable that attention is. You now have to pay us a nickel every time you want to drive on that highway. It's a toll. So understand that that's brand spanking new on this platform. Adisola, good morning. All right, she said she's located close to you she's in Centerville, Ohio. Well, good morning.
Yeah, I've got family in Centerville. That's awesome.
All right, so we're focusing on, I think, two ends of sort of a bell curve this morning, which is waiting for patient care is definitely the end of where our services are, right? So we're saying that we're seeing a long wait time for patients to receive care, a wait list 4 to 6 weeks. I saw in some of the discussions that you had prompted on LinkedIn, Tony, in the last couple of days, as well as the other end of the spectrum in terms of hiring clinicians. Which ones do you guys want to tackle first?
Let's get into wait times. Back to Winston Churchill, never let a crisis go to waste. I think wait times are the greatest opportunity to push our profession forward. Maybe that I've seen in my professional career, 22, 3 years. And nobody's taking advantage of it. Nobody is leveraging this as an opportunity. Nobody is trying to figure out how we can make this work for both ends of the bell curve. And what I mean by that is, my easy answer is raise your prices, sell more cash pay, like make them pay. Twitter is showing us today, make them pay for access. Somebody who wants to jump to the front of the line. I'm here. We have Kings Island, which is a major amusement park down the road. If my kids want to get to the front of the line, they have to buy a gold pass. Disney does it. We see it all over the place. So that's the easy answer. And then of course the resistance is, well, what about, the people who can't afford that? Okay. So who is taking the wheel and saying, I'm going to create an affordable solution for people who are waiting 3 to 6 weeks to get the services that they need? Now, is no service better than online service? Maybe therapists don't want to do telehealth. They don't want to do digital. They think YouTube isn't good enough for them. But you're leaving these patients with nothing. I think we can address both ends of the bell curve, and let's just kind of share some ideas. So right off the bat, and then you guys think about what you want to say. I would say for both ends, the premium service, right? The affluent community who wants access, you sell an access pass. I've talked about this, a membership, the privilege of paying for a $500 a month membership is you get access to me through, text, through email, you get 24-hour support. You call me in the middle of the night, you've had a knee replacement, you're bleeding through the dressing, you don't know what to do. Give me a call. I'll wake up at 2 a.m. and I will look at it through a telehealth platform and tell you what I think you should do next. But the other benefit of a membership like that is premium scheduling. Nobody gets access to my Monday, Wednesday, Friday schedule between 9:30 a.m. and 11 a.m. who isn't a premium member. And you get first pick, you get top priority. Okay. The other end of the bell curve is I'm going to can or productize what I do every single day in the clinic. I am going to record. I'm going to document what I do in the clinic. I'm going to provide those answers in a video format so that somebody who is sitting there on a 6-week waiting list can buy the videos, can buy the course, whatever you want to call it, and get their questions answered. I can even tell you how many people come into my clinic saying, I've been binge watched a bunch of your YouTube videos. You answered all of my questions, even the questions I didn't know that I would have. You had answers to them. I can't thank you enough. So that's something that I give away for free, but it could be packaged. It could be a $10, $20, $30 digital product, and it could help anywhere, not even just in this country, but now we can go overseas. So those would be my two solutions to somebody who wants to help with the waitlist problem and understands that there's huge value. This is a hungry audience that's not getting served.
Yeah. So in terms of us, we just simply raise our prices. And I think also that this is great for every cash practice across the country, wait times. Now, like you said, we always want to talk about, there's certain folks that just can't afford it. We understand it, whatever. But as a sidebar, Tony, you've probably heard or seen this, there's people that have contacted our practice over the years that they're like, do you take Medicaid? My mother or father's on Medicaid. And then we go through the whole rigmarole. We go through a whole call or two. Then let's say myself or one of my therapists over the years, we go to the home. Turns out they're very wealthy. They had moved all their assets from the mother or father to the son or daughter and waited 3 to 5 years, then applied to Medicaid. Then it looks like you are actually low income. So there's all those games. So it's I know that but there is still a small chunk that I think I agree with Tony. They're the folks that truly cannot afford. There should be something. There should be something. But the challenge, Tony, I think, is that those folks will say, well, don't you just take my Medicaid? Here's my insurance card, whatever. And a ton of practices across the country don't or are taking Medicaid less and less and less. And they're going to say, why am I paying out of pocket for this digital experience, this digital course, whatever Tony Maritato is talking about? Don't you just take my insurance? Don't you just take my Medicaid? So there's always that's always going to be the challenge. Now, in terms of the overall wait times across the country, it's definitely great for cash-based physical therapy. It's definitely great for cash practices where the best practices will win. And the folks that are like, oh, there's a wait time at these 2, 3, 4 other places that I called, and then they found, my practice or some other practice. They read the reviews, they checked out the website, whatever. They're like, yeah, I could see why you guys charge out of pocket, or after the phone call, now I get it. I hear it's a different phone call. I get it. That's why it's out of pocket. So it's in a good way. It hurts some of the population. I mean, I'm not in a bad way. It hurts some of the population, but in a good way, it can help the cash-based practices. I don't know. Then you got all the big corporates in the middle that I don't know if this, even affects them or not. I don't know.
Yeah. A story comes to mind. You know me, I always go on a tangent, but I'm going to bring it back, baby. Trust me. People were complaining at LAX airport about the long wait times for their luggage. They'd get off the plane, they'd deplane, they'd go stand at the carousel, and they'd wait. They'd complain. So an optimization expert was brought in. How do we get the luggage off the plane to the carousel faster? And he figured out you can't. They were actually doing it with the volume that LAX was receiving. They were doing it as fast as they possibly could. So here's how he reduced complaints, because that was his job, reduce the complaints. He figured out he couldn't make the bags go faster. He made the walk from the airplane to the carousel longer. So essentially what I'm saying is he gave them something to do while they were waiting, so they didn't realize they were waiting. So here's a couple, yeah, right. Here's a couple of my suggestions. Number one, I get ads all the time for this. It's more focused on business, but now that I'm sort of helping to take care of my dad post-stroke, I get text messages from his healthcare service all the time. A week, 3 days, the day before. Are you still good? Just clarifying, if you want to change, here's the link right here. I don't have to call. I can do it. Never while I'm driving. I would never do that because that's not good. But while I'm in the grocery store, oh, you know what? Dad's not feeling great. Tomorrow's not going to work. Let me make sure I don't get hit with that fee or just not show up. And I can do it right there and reschedule with one thumb. Make it easy for them, right? So if you're saying a cancel, a no-show, right, there's a list, go hit that list up, but you got to make room. And the answer shouldn't only be have your providers work for an extra couple of nickels on a Saturday. I don't think that's the answer to keep people happy in terms of clinicians. So what I'm saying is leverage technology. There's AI-based technology that can do this thing once you set it up to make sure you have people, making sure they show up if they're scheduled and give them an easy option to reschedule. The second would be leveraging technology and telehealth. Could you be doing some triage before they ever come? If you got a 6-week wait time, can you get a telehealth visit first? Tony, is there a regulation that the first visit has to be in person or anything like that?
No, not at all. And as far as, legislation goes right now, telehealth is still a covered service under Medicare benefit until the end of this calendar year, until December 31st, 2024. Now, right now, there is no proposal to extend telehealth coverage, but all that means is that then telehealth becomes a self-pay service or telehealth can become a marketing service, and this is the thing that we do so many things that are an expense, but they're also a marketing investment. And so I would say if a telehealth visit, or we haven't talked about RTM or remote therapeutic monitoring. I've got 2 interviews coming up probably in the next week for different remote therapeutic monitoring companies that approach it differently. I think there's huge opportunity to leverage that. Finish your thought, and then I want to talk about Rory Sutherland and his approach to solving that problem for transportation.
Yeah, the last thing I'll say is, look, I just highlighted 2 uses of technology, but they solve a people problem, right? So understand, if you can solve my problem, like Tony said, don't let a crisis go unused. The people that are leveraging this, make no mistake about it, the people that are already doing the things that I'm mentioning or smarter things that I'm mentioning, they're not talking about it online. Watch the people online. They do this. They complain because they can't figure, we have these problems. The people that are actually solving it are busy solving it. So understand, people are doing the things that I'm saying. They're not talking about it because they're busy winning. So stop looking for validation because you'll be 59th in a race out of 70. Try some of these things. Try one. And my suggestion is you'll overserve them.
All right. Ohio is representing. Here's Cameron Dennis. Cameron's a couple hours north of me. He's come down. We've met in person before. He's got a great practice. He's actually working. Well, I think he still might be working with Joey Albritton, who was on the podcast a couple weeks ago. So Rory Sutherland, one of my favorite marketing geniuses, like Seth Godin, Rory Sutherland. These guys are amazing. Rory talked about the transportation time, I'm going to say commute time for I call it a train. I don't remember what he called it. It was like the city, they invested, hundreds of millions of dollars to try and speed up the commute from two major cities. And one of the things that he said was, it really is insignificant. So let's imagine, Dave, you're going from New Jersey to Manhattan. Maybe it's a 40-minute commute and you want to speed it up to 20 minutes. 20 minutes isn't going to make that much of a difference. But he said what they could have done was take the $2 billion investment to get a little bit of time savings, put it into hiring the most beautiful, attractive male and female, people to work on the trains, train the staff to become comedians and make the commute fun, invest in Wi-Fi, invest in these extra services so that the commuters on the train don't even care that it took an extra 20 minutes. They would want the train to go slower because the experience would be so much more enjoyable that they don't even need to get to their destination any quicker. And so to Jimmy's point, when we're looking at these long wait times, if you refuse as a business owner, if you refuse to do the things to reduce the wait times, as in raise prices until 60% of the wait list drops off, do these other logistical things that allow you to leverage the opportunity, then just make it a more enjoyable experience. Start the initial contact sooner. Start to, give those people that are waiting things to do. Go back to waiting for food at a restaurant. Like it was such a game changer. I'd never go out to eat, but when I would go downtown, we would get, you could text. They would text you when your table was ready. So we could go to 2 or 3 bars down the road and get drinks and hang out and have a good time and then come back, instead of what it used to be when I was younger. You'd get that little disc that would light up and vibrate when you're waiting for a table, and you'd sit there and you'd watch all these other people coming in and out, and you'd watch all these people eating, or you'd wait outside and hang out with the smokers. Like, it was a miserable experience. They figured out how to make the wait times more enjoyable. I think clinicians need to invest a little bit of effort. We think the only thing that matters is the quality of the patient care experience when you're face to face. It's all the theater around that experience that matters.
We sell an experience. Pay attention to that. Are we good on that? I mean, I don't think we solved the whole damn thing, but I wanted to make sure we had time to jump into the other side of the coin, or the other side of the process.
Yeah, let's talk about hiring. Let's talk about staffing.
Man, all right. So where are the bottlenecks in terms of staffing? So let's set the stage. You guys are practice owners. Set the stage. Where's the problem? Because some people will say nobody wants to work. And then, so where are the people? We know we keep graduating PTs. We know that they're out there. Are they leaving the profession? Are they going out on their own? Are they becoming accountants? Are they just launching podcasts? What are they doing? Let's figure out what the problem actually looks like. What are we looking at here?
Dave, let's start with you.
I'll go first, and then Tony will come in with probably a crisper, more concise opinion and angle. So, like usual. So, with this, there's several things, right? So there's a lot of DPTs graduating. They come out with student loan debt. There's a combination of sentiment around, I need to be paid an X amount because I have some level of student loan debt. There's a little bit of contribution to these online communities where some voices are louder than others. And there's this negative camaraderie sometimes, and sometimes good, like someone created in the New York Physical Therapy Facebook group, someone created like a spreadsheet of like all maybe across the country, but definitely in New York, like certain areas of certain regions and how much they were offered and whether it was part-time or full-time. And so it was like an anonymous transparency around job offers and what type of jobs, and was it outpatient or was it SNF or was it home health or whatever. So there's that like the online collaboration, there's some good there. But then I think there's also some negative sentiment around like, oh, well, like I have, $250,000 of student loan debt. So I need, DBTs need to be paid $100,000 or 120 or 110 or something out of school when they have minimal hands-on experience with real patients other than rotations. And they need a lot of coaching and hand-holding and all that, because I know I did the first year or two. So there's some of that. I think that's one of the biggest things. But then at the same time, there is, Jimmy, I think, because I come from a blue-collar family, I think there is, and I never even heard the word burnout until, I don't know, 5 years ago or something, or like recently. I graduated in 2011, and my first job or two, I was doing 3 or 4 nights working in outpatient clinics, because that's just how it is, right, Tony? Like, you got to close the clinic, and there's patients that want the 5, 6, 7, 7:30 p.m., whatever slots. And so I think there is some of that, whether it's the profession attracts some of those styles of individuals, I don't know. There's multiple things here. That's why we're talking about it. That's why it's an ongoing topic across the industry, across the profession, across different podcasts and online sentiment, offline sentiment. There's multiple things here. That's my take so far. I would love to hear what Tony thinks.
So these two topics are married, right? We started talking about it because if I don't have staff, I have a long waiting list, and all this stuff works together. I wanted to mention John DeLucci. Now, I think I have been following him from Facebook like years ago. Some of these names start to get twisted in my head, and I don't remember who's who, but he's great on LinkedIn, John DeLucci. He's got some great feedback on this topic in particular, and then some other stuff. He's been sharing a bunch of great content. But when I'm looking at this, I never tend to agree with the conventional wisdom, which is, well, pay more, offer bonuses. Somebody had mentioned either on John's thread or on mine, well, we can increase capacity by offering our current team to be able to work extra hours, work the weekends. And I'm like, I don't know about you guys, but the people that I hire, and maybe it's just the culture of the people that work well within my team, they don't want to work more. Like, my most powerful incentive for people who come work for me is typically, look, you can work less and make the same pay. Like, they want time with family. They want time to travel. They want time to think and be creative. And that's what I want. So it's probably my own biases that attract that. But I've never found a clinician in 22 years who is motivated by financial incentives. They want to get paid what they need to get paid to feel valued. And this goes to Dan Pink and his research. But so when I'm looking at that, I'm like, all right, more pay is not going to produce significantly more production. I'm going to take that off the table. So I would start to use our clinical brains and say, well, what's really the problem here? How can I increase capacity? Even if I was to find an amazing young person, I'm like, hey, I'm going to pay for your, education. It's 6 years. It's 7 years. I'm not going to have them in my ecosystem. Then I look at PTA. And of course, I posted a question that I would like to hear your guys' feedback on this. My understanding is, outside of the things that are not part of the PTA curriculum. So PTAs are not trained to evaluate a new patient. They're not trained to establish a plan of care and do the things that are unique to physical therapists. But when it comes to patient care delivery, to the actual treatment, I do not see a difference in the expectation or the qualification of a PT versus a PTA. They should be exactly the same. Even in Dave's world, a PTA stepping into a cash-based system should be just as qualified to deliver the visit that a PT is qualified to do. So that's my perspective. So I'm like, all right, well, PTAs seem to be more abundant. PTAs seem to come with a different perspective and different mindset from the PT. So that's why I tend to focus on building a team of PTAs over building a team of PTs for my current business model. But then I even take it a step past that. I'm like, well, follow me on this. If most of our patients are now experiencing higher out-of-pocket costs, so Medicare Advantage plans are typically paying $35 to $50 copays. Other non-Medicare plans, they have high deductibles. My personal health insurance, I have a high deductible plan. So if these individuals are going to be paying more out-of-pocket anyway, isn't it reasonable that I, as the physical therapist, could perform the evaluation, make the determination on what this patient actually needs? And then my feeling is I could train a non-licensed individual to deliver the patient care experience that I believe is best for this particular patient. Now, these are not medically complex cases. These are people that need somebody to, make the experience more enjoyable, to laugh, to joke, to have fun, and keep them motivated. I'm not talking about somebody who's at risk for a major medical event. And so where historically what we've seen in the profession is busy clinics would use aides to deliver insurance-billed services, that's not what I'm talking about. But what I'm saying is if somebody's going to have a $45 copay, can I craft an experience that exceeds the cost of $45 in worth to that individual? It's worth $100. They're going to pay me $45, but it's delivered by a non-licensed individual that I have personally trained in the experience that I want to deliver. And I think that's where the answer comes for a lot of us, at least in outpatient ortho worlds. A lot of my patients don't need a skilled therapist to be with them watching every minute of every session. I think I can build that. I can build the experience, and I can train the individual to deliver it for less than the cost of a copay and still run a profitable business. It allows me to reduce barriers to care. It allows me to expand resources. And again, there are so many ways we can approach this, but that would be the direction that I would take my business. And I think the numbers would prove that it's well received by the consumer. The patients are happy with that. Go ahead, Jimmy. What are you thinking?
This touches an emotion. So I sort of watched Tony tip his cards a little bit. And this is why you should follow Tony on any of his social platforms, is when he gets an idea, he starts poking at it like the raptors in Jurassic Park. He's like, I'm never going to test the same part of the fence twice. I'm just going to figure this out by throwing out ridiculous things that are actually not that ridiculous. But the thing you're suggesting, Tony, is going to touch it's going to touch the heart and emotion of PTs. A lot of them who are staunch, who do not want to change. And I'm very sorry to you, but we understand that if you don't change, you lose. Again, back to the dinosaurs, evolve or die. So what I think I started to read in your comments when you were saying, hey, listen, what if we could reduce cost? What if we could utilize PTAs at what they're great at and utilize this DPT for what they're good at, get better care, reduce cost or make more money? And what did you see, Tony, in terms of that? I saw a lot of undeserved rage against PTAs. They don't know. They don't have the level of experience, a lot of finger wet. How do you know what a PTA knows? Well, in my experience, the plural of anecdote is not data, my friends. The plural of anecdote is not data. So what I think you're saying is leverage PTAs who are professionals at what they're good at. They're still under the guidance of a PT. And this brings up one of my favorite pyramids. And this is the 4 levels of value. Have you guys seen this one before?
Loves pyramids.
Okay.
Go, Jimmy.
At the bottom, we have implementation. There's 4 levels of value for the podcast listeners. The 4 levels of value. And the value is at the bottom. We go up, it's more valuable. The bottom is implementation. That's doing the thing. That's making the donut. Okay. And that's why you saw a lot of suggestions in the chat saying, well, what if you could do some things at night? Or what if you could work on every other Saturday? That doesn't scale because what you're asking people to do is do more of the thing. Okay. You have to go up higher in the value pyramid, inverted pyramid, to become more valuable. The next step up is unification. That's where Tony's living right now. That's where Tony wants people thinking. As a PT or business owner, how can you have a PT manage several people so you can have more people getting care at the same time, from more good care from people who are qualified to do this? What you're saying is I have a baseball team. I want the person, you're telling me my best fielder is going to play first base? I feel like they should be playing shortstop because more balls get hit over there. Can I put a less good fielder at first base. Not to knock first baseman, I was a first baseman. So what they're saying, can you put people in different positions and get a better outcome? That's unification. Can you utilize PTs and PTAs as a powerful duo, as a battery? I think you can. That's what Tony's getting at. Tony was also getting at communication, recording what you're doing, and you're saying that when I'm putting out this information, people already understand. They're picking you over someone else because they have this affinity to you. That's the third level in the value pyramid, or the 4 levels of value. Communication and imagination is taking something that doesn't exist right now, like a telehealth triage, make the experience and waiting, however long that wait time, make the train ride really fun. That's imagination. If you can do something like that, or a combination of all 4, my friends, this is how you become more valuable. And that's how we choose things. We choose things on cost and perceived value, and we weigh those things. Today is Amazon Prime Day. Amazon Prime Day likes to focus on cost, but Amazon Prime focuses on value. That's how they make sure that twice a year, when they say it's Prime Day, you're putting things in your cart and seeing what's coming up. So I think, Tony, what you're getting at is, hey, what about this player who's on the bench that we barely, we underutilize, the PTA? Is that part of our solution? And I got to be honest, I'm agreeing with you on that.
I want to ask Dave. I want to ask you, Dave, and I know you're going to talk about it. So like your clientele, I think, and I could be totally wrong, you're selling the title, you're selling the prestige. I can choose to hire the best of the best, and I can buy the Ferrari, or I can get a kit car that looks like a Ferrari. So what are your thoughts on hiring an aide that you have personally trained to deliver just the same quality of care, or a physical therapist assistant? And I'm not, saying the two are the same, for your clientele.
Funny you ask, because it just started to be implemented last week or the week before, very recently. Now, I wanted to ask, because you were saying PTA, Tony, but then you also said unlicensed, right? So you're saying either an aide, or can I look between the lines, personal trainers or whatever? Like, that's kind of what you were
and that's the thing. Like, I think you have levels, but when I look at the resources we have available, if I want to build something that's more accessible, that's still insurance covered, I would go to the physical therapist assistant. Right, and I believe that the physical therapist assistant is equally qualified to the physical therapist when it comes to everything between the bookends, between the evaluation and the discharge, right? But if I'm looking at going cash base, I would not even necessarily limit myself to a physical therapist assistant. I would go unlicensed. I would hire for personality. I would hire for other soft skills, because now I can cast a wider net, and there's far more opportunities for me to go outside of just licensed individuals in a cash-based world.
So sometimes on these shows or other shows I listen to, it's, a pie in the sky or theoretical, whatever. We're going to go tactical right now. I'm going to share numbers. I'm going to share steps. We just implemented this. I mentioned this with Tony before, maybe on the show or another show, but we have certain clients that use us for 3, 4, 5, sometimes more days per week. I know it sounds excessive, but maybe they're geriatric. The family wants them to keep moving. And sometimes they don't even care. They literally will tell me, like, they want us, like, oh, you can't find a physical therapist? Like, who else could you, hire or whatever? Literally, some families say that to us. Okay, so one of these families recently, I was having challenges with covering, because I'm trying to do some of this semi-maternity leave thing, and they just want someone to come to exercise with the older family member 5 days a week. Okay, I had to pay a therapist a while ago a little bit extra, so instead of $80 a visit, it was $90 a visit. Then I said, hey, I need you to see this client as much as possible. Like I said, pick a number. Like, what's your number that'll be a no-brainer for you to come do this? He goes, $130 a visit, because obviously we're charging like $250 a visit, right? So the therapist says $130 a visit. I go, okay, done. So he starts seeing this client 3, 4, 5 days a week for about a month or two. And then the therapist says, because the therapist lives in Manhattan and this other client is in Brooklyn, somewhere kind of out of the way. So the therapist says, I want to stay in Manhattan. I'm getting my Manhattan caseload busy, so I don't want to go to Brooklyn anymore because this client is kind of out of the way. And I know you paid me extra because of the walk from the Subway and all that. Okay. So then I lost him. I have tried Jimmy and Tony, guys and gals listening, physical therapists, purists listening. I have tried to get more therapists either hired. I've gone on LinkedIn. I've contacted PTAs. I've contacted PTAs on LinkedIn, cold sending them messages. It's been challenging. So this is what I did. I told the family, hey, we're gonna hire a personal trainer. I'm gonna handle everything. And we did I picked 2 different companies. The first assessment was free. So I went on, this was a couple weeks ago or whatever. I went to the normal visit time with this client who's been in our practice for almost 4 years. They love us. We can get into how we retain clients or whatever, but the family just wants the family member to move. So then I said, okay, let's try these 2 personal training companies. I'm going to manage the whole thing. You're going to continue to pay me the same rate. So here's some numbers. I buy. We go through two different companies. The first trainer was okay. The next one was like really great. And then so we go, okay, I'm going to buy a $24 visit package. It was like $19.95. It came out to like $83 a session. I'm charging $250. Great margin. And I want to say it now and loud and proud that this personal training company, these trainers, the owner of the company, the owner's getting a little margin, the trainer is happy. And it's like, I'm looking at this like, this is genius. And it's not through insurance, so it doesn't matter. Like, and it's not right now, it's not medically necessary. If he has a setback, some pain, injury, a fall, whatever, we'll either myself or we'll install a physical therapist back into the plan of care, back into the household, and not have the personal trainer there. But my comment on this is these personal training companies are hungry, and they're hungrier, dare I say, they are hungrier than the doctors of physical therapy out there. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is.
Well, I've shared ideas similar to that, where I've talked about finding LMT. So we're not a manual heavy clinic, but obviously we know there are clients who want manual therapy. It's easier for me to hire an LMT. But one of the things that I had done for a while was I would reach out to local LMTs that I know, that I trust, that I like, that I built rapport with. I asked them, what's a 6 visit package for you guys? Can you give me a discount on that? And I will sell that package for you. And so similar, a little bit different, but basically that's something where I don't have to put the money up front. I can sell the package. Let's say it's $100 a massage, and they're going to sell it to me for $70 a massage, but then they're going to get to keep the client after the 6 visit package is done anyway at the $100 rate. And what's really exciting about that, and I don't know if you're doing this, I didn't hear it in the details.
Yes.
What I would do is I would sell the 6 visit package to one of my clients, but I wouldn't pay the LMT until each of those sessions was used. So I would get the money up front. And if, which we know happens, they buy 6 and they use 4, I've only paid for 4. I've got that extra 2 on loan until or if they ever use it. That's the only way. Like back in the day with Groupon, I used to make a ton of money with Groupon, even though I didn't make any money on the actual massage sessions that were used. I made all my money on the 22% of massage sessions that were sold and never used.
Smart.
So there's all these little nuances to how this works. Not to go off track, but the other option here is just changing other elements in what we do. I get so much resistance on single unit visits, but like if I was sitting there with a 3, 4, 5 week wait list, I would look at changing the model of care, how I'm delivering services. Is it possible that I could compress maybe a 4 unit session into a single unit session, or maybe do 4 single unit sessions instead of 1 4 unit sessions across the week? Now, I'm not mobile. I have a brick and mortar clinic, so it's easy for me to control capacity in that sense. Is it possible that I could deliver other services to an individual who maybe doesn't need one-on-one care with a therapist, but more than once a week, but they still would benefit from just coming in and working out? Like so many of my caseload, they just need to move. They just need to exercise. They need to build confidence and feel like they're doing something. I think Jimmy said something about like, yeah, giving them something to occupy them so they have a locus of control that's internal. So much of what we can deliver, even if we don't have the capacity for billable minutes, is look, let's give these patients something that empowers them, lets them see that they're moving the needle forward, even if it's just riding a bike for 20 minutes. You know, I've got a patient right now. He's been a patient a little over a year and a half. He's a single individual. He comes in and rides the bike for 60 minutes. He feels amazing riding the bike for 60 minutes. He feels like he's in control of a chronic condition that he's dealing with. It doesn't cost me anything for him to come in and ride the bike, you know? And so like these are, but he's there. So when the time comes for skilled care, when the time comes for billable units, I can deliver them. But if I don't need to, he can just come in and ride the bike, you know? And so like, we tend to go down these other roads of what's always been done and what we think we're supposed to do and all this stuff. And we close the door on other opportunities that are out there. What were you going to say? I think I cut you off. Somebody.
I was going to ask or say to both of you, the clinics that are successful 3 years from now, because right now everybody's in the same, we're all in the same storm. We're just not on the same boats, right? That's the way to look at it. The clinics that are going to see success in 3 years, what do you think they'll have implemented from what we talked about today? Ooh, clinics are afraid to use text because they don't want to take any chances and feel that they're going to do something wrong. Listen, I thought of this when I saw people, PTs sort of chiming in and instantly jumping on, well, PTAs don't know this and they're not as good as me at this. That reflects on you as a teacher, in my opinion. That reflects on you as, okay, I mean, like you said, hire for personality. I can teach you skills. So by saying like PTAs don't get this level of education, number one, do you know that? Different schools teach different schools are better, some are worse. And if you can't take someone to make them better, that means that you are an implementer and you're not a communicator or a unifier. And that is why you have less value. I'm going to say that again for the people watching my live stream with the graphic. If you're staying down here at implementation, the only way to scale is do more. Work nights, work weekends. Now you could raise your prices. I agree with that. I agree with Dave. But if we're saying if you can be better at unification and communication and imagination, you can have more value. Do you think that the people that jump on this, utilizing people that are not PTs, will have further success? That feels like the low effort, high reward, the quick win thing to do right now. Or I should say maybe it's a high effort, high reward because it's investing in people, just a different professional.
I think we saw farmers, right? They went from using a horse to pull a plow to having a tractor. Technology is always going to increase the efficiency, the effectiveness, the production. I think that's where, 3 to 5 years is going to be technology. We're going to use technology to improve the patient care experience, whether that be providing things that they can do on their own, empowering individuals to. Jimmy, we talked about like the apps that are available right now that allow you to do more therapy on your own. The app combined with the human was the best outcome rather than the app alone. So that's really where I see it going, is the adoption of technology, getting comfortable with how it works.
Do you know the most efficient, calorie per output of watt animal on the planet in terms of like the most efficient, like endurance animal, the animal that burns for every 1 calorie, they go the furthest?
No.
Human on a bicycle. Like human was like, I forget the study, but it was I forget what the most, efficient animal was. And humans were like 83rd. You put a human bicycle, it is number 1 and it's not close. We still have to put in effort, but what can you get out of it? Stop focusing on just the input, right? We can only do so much. Let's say there's a rule you can't work more than 40 hours a week. Can't do it. Let's just pretend some rule somewhere in Washington says you can't do it. What do you do then? My rule is you're allowed to complain for 24 hours and then you have to start doing something about it. So you have 24 hours to sulk, which I take all the time, usually with a bottle of wine, and then you have to get to work. I think the embracing of the PTA is going to be something, I don't know, could be one of the most important things in the next 3 years to keep clinics in business and make them valuable.
Dave, you keep innovating. What do you see?
At the same time, Jimmy, you know that the reimbursement for PTAs is being cut, right? Like over the past several years or whatever. So in the bigger practices, I don't know if that's something that they want to do. I mean, they're all optimized for billing and coding and, maximizing units, billed per day.
But they make less, right? Someone's got to math this for me. So I understand that they're going to bill less, but they make less, right?
I would argue it's questionable. And this goes back to, are you being paid for the job or are you being paid for your qualifications?
Right.
I think the argument when this all started happening should have been, look, Medicare, are you paying for the intervention or are you paying for the person delivering the intervention? Clearly, the decision was made. They're paying for the person delivering the intervention.
Right.
So to Jimmy's question, like in my facility, PTAs earn just about the same amount as the PT. It really has gotten hard. The numbers that I've seen publicly posted is the PTA is generating or earning about 80% of what the PT is earning. I know that in home health, PTAs are making a ton of money. I'm sure there's going to be, cases out there where PTAs are still making 20, 25 an hour. But generally speaking, PTAs are pretty close to what PTs are making. And the main reason is because the units are valued the same, or at least historically they had been. Now you've got that 15% reduction, which is a little bit nuanced. It's not actually 15% of the whole allowed amount. It's for Medicare, it's 15% reduction of the 80% that Medicare pays. Even with that, I would tell you, I think the real value in the PTA is one, you get the right one, their clinical skill is equal to a PT when it comes to patient care delivery. Two, they tend to be more accessible than the PT right now, just because it's a shorter, education cycle. They're graduating as many or more of them. Three, I think the PTA, because of the nature of the person going into PTA, you're kind of conditioned to be, okay, I'm part of the team. I'm going to follow the plan of care. So if you're a PT who wants somebody to kind of do it your way, the PTA is going to be more suited to do that. I could never hire Dave and expect Dave to treat a patient the way I treat a patient.
Right.
But typically PTAs are going to follow my plan of care. Like that's the way the system has been designed. So I think there are a lot of advantages, but I don't think dollar savings is really the main advantage when it comes to PT versus PTA.
Okay. We've got 9 minutes left or 7 minutes left. I did want to reach out and talk about something we talked about last week, which was the Hawk Tuah girl. Now, have you seen what she's been doing online? Number one, she had a management company. We mentioned that. She's come up in my feed, and I don't follow her a dozen times. She's doing the tours. She's doing the concert and bar tours. Catch me in, Sacramento next Tuesday at the concert. And she's doing a couple of different brand deals with some things that fit her personality, right? So concerts and bars and things like that. Saw a brilliant video of her because they probably sat down with her, this management company, and said, and what I said, tell me about you. I don't know anything about you besides the one thing you spit out of your mouth outside of a bar. and it came up in that conversation I'm getting with this management company. I love pets. I love dogs. So there's a video of her going and spending $500 at PetSmart and then going to a shelter and, giving the dogs treats and doing that.
Useless content. I mean, just
bringing her a little bit back towards the middle so she's not just this girl, but hey, if you've got that wave of attention, how long can this 16 minutes of fame go? So I thought that was a good idea on her part. I will also, this is like a wrap up. I mentioned in the beginning that I got this alert when we started streaming. I now need to apparently pay to stream to X/Twitter. I've never really jumped on a lot of the platforms while we're streaming to see what it looks like, but I decided to do that. Have you ever been on LinkedIn while you're streaming? Do you know what your LinkedIn profile looks like when you are streaming to LinkedIn? I didn't until today. They're doing the opposite. They're saying, we're going to give you such a valuable great screenshot, Jimmy. essentially your banner, your header banner is now a TV screen while you're live streaming. So they are going in the other direction saying, not only do we want you to stream, we're not just going to put it in the feed, we're going to make your profile page a billboard. So it's the destination. So we see two different platforms going in two different directions. One is saying, similarly to a clinic who has a long wait list, we know we've got a lot of attention. We know it's valuable. Now you got to pay up if you want to keep doing it. The other is saying they want
more of it.
So I thought that was a tale of two cities on two different social platforms, and a hawk to a girl.
Well, I mean, X, Twitter, whatever, it's just, I guess, looking to monetize a little bit. They already have a lot of engagement where the native engagement is text and or some memes. Like there's not a ton of like video and pictures on the platform. It's mostly text based, or again memes or pictures or tweet threads or whatever. And then LinkedIn, we've all seen it over the past couple of years, like trying to do more content. They want more content. They want more video, all of that. So that doesn't surprise me at all. I would love to hear Tony's thoughts on the differences between these two platforms and, how other therapists or owners can utilize that. And I love the comparison, Jimmy.
Yeah, looking at our numbers and not being on Twitter, it looks like there was a lot of volume on Twitter, but I think Dave or Jimmy, somebody said, could just be bots. Like, even though you see this high view count, it could just be bots off of Twitter. So now a lot of that is wiped out. Now we have a true audience here. But I just like these experiments. I like to see businesses that go in opposite directions. Dave and I go in opposite directions. Both of us are successful. I think we can learn lessons from both. That's the thing that excites me the most. At heart, I just love the process and I love seeing how it goes. What are the closing thoughts?
Parting shots. Dave, what do you got?
Parting shots. Let's see. We covered a bunch of different things, but around the whole staffing crisis, I think it's still good and productive to have these types of conversations. So whether it's between owners, it's between physical therapists, other folks in the industry, this is the best way to navigate it, which is kind of trying to troubleshoot solutions. And whether it's using unlicensed aides or other folks on your team to carry out some of the services that are not medically necessary, that are not billable or covered by insurance, that makes sense. I think the best way for us to navigate out of this is to be open and to, like Tony said, whether it's a combination of tech and apps and some technology and the human connection. I 100% agree with that. I think our clientele only really wants and needs the human interaction across the country and all these other practices. I can see the value of apps and technology as a way to assist. And the apps and the technology will definitely, I cannot see like normal treatment or conservative care be 100% through an app. But I'm biased because of how I want to go to a professional and a physician or a therapist. And I'm also biased because of my clientele who literally never ask for an app. They don't ask for any technology. They don't ask for a portal. They don't ask for a chat widget. They don't want to, they will text me or my therapist, but then they want to convert that to an in-person visit. Like, I had this issue and I want to do it in person. But anyway, we're talking about the physical therapy staffing crisis, the challenges out with recruiting and hiring. And I think this is we're well on our way to figuring out solutions, and the challenges that the solutions are going to be different for different practices and different companies.
Tony? All right, PT Pintcast, great conversations on tap. Go to PT Pintcast podcast YouTube channel, subscribe. Go to the Dave Kittle Show podcast YouTube channel, subscribe. Learn Medicare billing, subscribe. Like, guys, get out there. If you want to be part of a great conversation, subscribe, support the channels, help us all level up this show. Jimmy?
I think the rising tide lifts all ships. I would say there's a great quote from Emerson that I just shared across all the platforms, which is, if you build a better mousetrap, the world would be the path to your door. What I want people to understand is, what business are you in? You are not in a mousetrap business because that is a product. You are in a service business. So your job should be, how can I overserve, right? What can I add to this? How can I make the wait time the wait time shorter just by making the walk time longer? How can I make the clinical experience? It's not just going to get more CEUs. It's not that. I'm not saying don't be clinically excellent. What I'm saying is I think the door is wide open for making the experience better. And that's what people are actually buying, right? They're buying the results.
They'll pay for.
That's what they'll pay for. So I would say if you build a better mousetrap, the world will be the path to your door. But if you build a better experience, people are going to show up more, and they'll wait longer for that experience if they understand what they're going to get. But also, do they have to? Or can you give them something to read? I mean, the first person to put a magazine in a waiting room, how smart was that? Just give them something to look at, or put a TV in the dentist office waiting room. That was brilliant, right? Great. What can you do? How can you expand on that? Does it have to be in the waiting room? Can it be home? Giving me something to stay engaged. I mean, a simple chat widget to say like something opened up. This was big in the restaurant industry. It was like, take my shift. Instead of you having to text 20 of your colleagues and say, I can't work tonight, you put it up on an app, and then 20 colleagues would automatically get it. And then you'd have your problem solved because I need the money. I'll take it. It's mine. It's mine. It's mine. Everybody wins that. Figure out a way to make everybody win, and the world will be the path to your door, even if you don't sell mousetraps. Would love to hear from you. Let us know what you think about this via all the platforms that Tony had mentioned. And thanks for listening.
Hey, it's Dave Kittle. Are you a healthcare business owner or physical therapy practice owner who is looking to figure out your succession plan or exit strategy? We might be able to help. And in fact, we may be interested in acquiring your practice. If you're interested, you can reach out to me. Shoot me an email at dave@conciergepainrelief.com. That's DAVE@CONCIERGE painrelief.com. Or you can call me at any time, 646-781-8884.